Hello, Dog fans. Today I'm going to take a close look at the Rose Bowl as a means of identifying some ways in which the Husky offense can improve for 2019. I was inspired to undertake this by Chris Peterson's post-game comments.
Tough one. Very frustrating when you start the first half like we started. I have no idea why. I think we need to look at our offense really closely, no question. But we will get that fixed.
How?
We'll have a plan. We will. We'll study the hell out of the tape and, pare things down so we're more precise, what we're doing. It all comes down to execution is what it is. We'll keep battling, keep learning, keep figuring out how to raise the bar.
So when Chris Peterson says he's going to take a long look at the offense and study the hell out of the tape, well, that's exactly what I'm going to try and do. Bear in mind that a year ago, defensively, the Huskies were first in the conference in terms of fewest points allowed and fewest yards allowed. But offensively, in conference games, the Huskies were 8th in scoring and just 11th in passing. And of course, with 12 and a half minutes to go in the Rose Bowl, the score was 28-3. Now, this video is not for the casual fan. There's a lot of detail, so be forewarned. But in my experience, this is how players and coaches analyze tape to look to improve moving forward. And in fact, this is the exact coaches tape that the players and coaches study with the sideline all 22 and the end zone and also the scoreboard flashing before the play. Lastly, a quick shout out to all the good people at Dogman. In many ways, you guys are the backbone of the support for Husky football. So with all that, let's get to the tape. Okay, third play of the game. It's 3rd and 11, and the Huskies are going to line up in a trips left, shift Salvan Ahmed into the backfield. Linebacker follows him. That's a man-to-man read, and you always think and talk protection first. So the Huskies have a 6-man protection, and with Ohio State playing a cover 1, that's man-to-man here with one free safety in the middle. There's a pressure package here. It looks like Ohio State is bringing 6, but with Ahmed stepping up to block that first blitzer, somebody has to have him in protection. And so number 39 is what's called key dogging. When he sees Ahmed blitz, then he delay blitzes. So it's a 5-man blitz that becomes a 6-man blitz. And so a potential adjustment for the Huskies is if Ahmed were to bluff like he's blocking that first linebacker and then maybe release on a shallow route, you could dump the ball to him and take advantage of that scheme. The Patriots do that often. As for the route concepts, so you've got Andre Bocellia here running what's called a spray fade where you widen and then widen further on a fade, and the throw is easier for the quarterback when you have that grass to throw it as opposed to a wide receiver running up the sideline. Now, Ty Jones is the widest receiver. He's going to just run a hitch on 3rd and 11, unlikely to get the first down there. You got Hunter Bryant on a sit down. We'll talk more about that in a second. Aaron Fuller is running a deep in or dig route. And so now as we watch the concepts unfold, you've got this number 24. He is widening. That widening is a technique normally associated with a coverage called lurk or robber, where a linebacker or safety is also just sitting there in a shallow help responsibility. So you funnel into that lurk or robber. So they don't have a lurker robber here. So as we see 24 widen there, a potential adjustment and route concept that you'd consider would be to widen Bocellia or that number 2 receiver and then cross the face of that defender. Now, as for Hunter Bryant, when he does this sit-down route against man-to-man, you'd prefer him to stay on the move. You got a better chance to create separation. And furthermore, as he's sitting down, Browning's on the hash mark. He's sitting on the hash. And with Fuller running his dig route, Browning would want to throw it just about on the hash. So he's stacked underneath, and the spacing is not what you want, because that's going to be a visual deterrent to try and hit Fuller on the dig route. Now, speaking of Fuller on the dig route, if you go back and look at this route, it's not fair to evaluate, well, Bocellia was covered and Fuller had the chance to be open, so you made the wrong read. You can only really say, well, pre-snap, this corner is off, allowing free access. He's head up, if anything, maybe even outside. So the technique you see him here, that's kind of squatting right here. He's not giving ground. So another adjustment would be, if Fuller were to come and stalk, when you see that corner, he wants to squat like that, meaning just sit down, then you stutter and you can run by him up the sideline, and obviously you have a potential for a big play. The other part of that is you look at his technique, this corner here. As he's backpedaling and then he turns knees in, he has the leverage to drive on that dig route, but he does not have leverage if you had Fuller running a comeback. So as he gets to the top of the route and those knees are in, an adjustment would be that at the top of the route you instead run a comeback and break out to the sideline. Of course, you need a big arm from the quarterback to hit that comeback, but that's a potential adjustment, and really one that the Huskies really didn't get to in this game, to throw that comeback. As it is, this is all jammed up. Probably defensive holding here, but Browning, it's going to take a heck of a throw, and he makes a pretty good throw. But we see it from the end zone copy. There's the man-to-man indicator. You see Browning kind of giving his route concept signal in all likelihood there, and he's going to just turn to the left, and right there he sees that Bocellia is getting jammed up by number 24. In an ideal world, he can snap his head around and try and find that dig, but there's some problems with that we outlined. So I think that's a pretty good throw. You got a chance for a Sports Center catch, didn't quite make it, didn't quite execute, and the Huskies have to punt. 1st and 10 here, and the Huskies are going to motion in Salvan Ahmed on a fly sweep. You've got Drew Sample blocking the edge here. All-American defensive end. Heck of a block here, controlling that, giving Ahmed a chance to read off that block. Kamari Pleasant, the halfback, is going to come up on that safety. Get a little bit of a whiff there, and then there's some penetration. So Washington doesn't get out of it what they need to. And looking from the end zone copy, you got Trey Adams and Luke Wattenberg. They're going to combo block on this 3 technique tackle here. And you'd like to see Trey Adams punch down a little bit more physical inside. He's going to have to climb this linebacker level. This linebacker's disappearing. Probably thought he was going to block him, but he's got the next linebacker. But in any event, even regardless of that dog, Adams needs to be more physical. Meanwhile, Kamari Pleasant, he's kind of putting his head down and not blocking what he sees, and nice job by this safety making a play, and short gain for the Huskies. 2nd and 10, and again the Huskies are going to try and get outside, this time with a quick pitch to Sean McGrew, and crack blocking here at the line of scrimmage. You can have Drew Sample on the end, Hunter Bryant on the Mike linebacker, and keep an eye on Andre Bocellia on that safety. Sample doesn't get much of that end, too much penetration, good recognition by him. Hunter Bryant gets enough of that Mike backer. You've got Trey Adams out on the Sam linebacker, but because Sample didn't take care of his man, everything gets gummed up. But Sean McGrew, terrific job of kind of seeing where there might be a crack. And speaking of crack, just watch Bocellia. here on that safety. And that's a defensive captain. Unbelievable heart and technique, a legal hit, even by modern times. Unbelievable shot by Bocelli. Great display of toughness. Terrific running. That's just really good football. Again, as good as Sample has been on some of these on the edge, doesn't get that crack, but it's all made possible by Bocelli. And again, a nice run by McGrew. So really good job of getting to the outside by scheme and some good blocking. So the very next play, third down, the scoreboard's a little bit late. It's actually 3rd and 3. Huskies going to be in an unbalanced formation, trips to the right. Although Hunter Bryant here in the middle is ineligible. He's on the line of scrimmage due to the unbalanced. Huskies are going to go on 3rd and 3, inside zone to the left, away from this over front. Everything's kind of stacked up. Safety's heels at 8 yards. They're not covering the number 3 receiver. You count outside in. 1, 2, 3. He's not covering the outside receiver, so Browning pulls the ball on an RPO, gets the ball on the bubble to Bocelli. But watch Fuller here, Aaron Fuller. He's going to take on the block at the 48 and get driven back to the 44. He's going to lose 4 yards on contact. Hunter Bryant's going to lose a couple of yards, so not real physical at the point of attack. And before we look at the end zone copy, here's another potential adjustment here. Browning right now is in the act of throwing and could pump. And watch how this corner is firing his gun on the bubble screen. So the adjustment here would be stutter and stalk that corner and then let Fuller run right up the sideline, or maybe cross block again. If you put the tight end on the line of scrimmage, that would make Hunter Bryant eligible if he backed off a yard, so you could get a cross kind of stock block and then release up the sideline. In any event, not physical and maybe a missed opportunity on a touchdown, depending on whether or not that linebacker can run. So you get the bubble screen out here. Here's Fuller absorbing too much. Corner's way more physical than him. Hunter Bryant, he's tougher than that. He needs to be more stout. And the ankle tackle, Bocelli, he gets around that mess here. Now, I'd like to think he can outrun that linebacker to the end zone. So now just a few plays later, first down, Huskies are going to be in the same formation, unbalanced, running the same play, inside zone, and a little bit different front, but the perimeter looks the same for Ohio State. This time Aaron Fuller is going to catch the bubble on the RPO. You're going to have a good block by Bocelli out here. You got Hunter Bryant competing his tail off, and then Aaron Fuller on that bubble is just going to turn down the play. You see from the end zone, Huskies trying to play fast, get lined up. That overhang defender here to Browning's right, that's the indicator. Hey, get the ball on the bubble. Good decision. And now for Aaron Fuller, that's just something you don't want to put on tape. Not for your teammates to see, not for your opponents, not for anybody. Meanwhile, watch Hunter Bryant. There's a guy that self-evaluated. A few plays prior, didn't do the job. Now he's blocking his man off the screen. Unbelievable job of competing here. And Aaron Fuller needs to bring that same level of competitiveness on this play. 1st and 10. Huskies going to motion shift. Miles Gaskin out. You can see a linebacker walk out with him. That's a man-to-man indicator. And the Huskies are in an empty now. We talked about how it's protection first. And for Browning, seeing this free safety and knowing he's got man-to-man, he knows that the most that Ohio State can bring is 5. And so with his 5 linemen, he's protected. Now, from a scheme standpoint, you have the Huskies are going to run a variation of a concept called Y stick, which is Y the tight end, in this case Hunter Bryant, running down about a 5-yard out route. Now, normally in Y stick, the number 2 receiver runs to the flat. But in this case, you're going to get Aaron Fuller on a what we call that spray fade. And then Gaskin, instead of running a go route as the number one receiver. He's going to exchange with Fuller, so he just runs a hitch to get in the same spot. Meanwhile, on the top concept, you've got Andre Baccellia on a dig route against a safety here. And then you got a little spot route that would be an influencer in zone coverage. But you're in man coverage here, and if you don't like the matchup here with Fuller against their best defender, he comes out here, and as of yet, the Huskies have only shown that they want to go outside and run that spray fade. They have not shown that they want to come in here and get that defender's hips turned and then cross back inside on the face as we had diagrammed earlier. So here, that's just that's a tough win right there. What are you going to do? Back shoulder, throw up a 50-50 ball? Well, Aaron Fuller is undersized compared to that corner. But let's go back and look at a few other routes, okay, because it's 1st and 10. How about Hunter Bryant? Well, he comes out, and he's kind of just chopping his feet. That he's not going anywhere. He's not fooling anybody. He doesn't break off his inside leg hard. He rounds it off his outside leg. So the technique isn't great, and so you're not getting great separation. Obviously, in man coverage, the hitch is going to be dead anyways. But pre-snap, this is number 25 is a safety. You got free access, meaning no linebacker jamming, and look at the acceleration here. That's good technique. Forward lean, drops his hips, accelerates out on a dig route, and that's something you could have anticipated before the play. So if you're Jake Browning, hey, if you don't love this, if that's not a bright green light and you think he's on top, you got a good pocket here. Just come back and hit that dig. And so we see from the end zone here in a second that that motions out. Number 32 would be the guy kind of lurking. He bluffs a blitz. So Browning, if he looks to his right, our left, he can control number 32. If he doesn't love that spray fade, look at Baccellia coming in. And as it is, you're throwing flyers up. Their best corner, he's winning the play, and Urban Meyer knows it. He's going to come out in the paint, give a little, I guess it's a low 5 now, and he knows these guys are winning in man coverage. The scoreboard's a little late. It's actually 3rd down and 6. Huskies going to motion over Aaron Fuller and get in a stack and alignment. And then Ohio State's going to show a 2-deep man under look. Cover 2 man it's called. And with this man indicator and 2 high safeties, Browning knows from a protection standpoint he's going to be covered. He's got a 6-man protection, but the running back's going to get out. And in fact, ordinarily you'd bring 4, but they're going to drop a little rat defender in here to help on any shallow crossing routes. From a scheme standpoint, Ty Jones is going to run an outside release, clear out here, turns into a corner, and then Aaron Fuller is going to have an option route. He can either break outside or, based on the release of this defender and how he fights over the chatter, he's going to get in the wake of Ty Jones, and he can break inside. So as we see how that plays out, he elects to go outside. Good decision. Great pocket. It's only a 3-man rush. And good anticipation. Perfect throw by Browning. Excellent execution. You get the 1st down. Now, if you're talking about the highest levels of precision, let's just kind of talk about concept. If you think of that 2-man concept that I described, that's kind of independent of the concept that's happening on the bottom. And what's happening on the bottom is flanker drive. There's a concept that's been around probably about 40 years. Bill Walsh's favorite concept. You had Jerry Rice running the shallow cross. Now, you notice how I drew a little angle like that. That's ideally how you want that shallow cross. Then you get the tight end, get an outside release, come straight up, and then he has a dig. Now, quarterback reads 1 to 2. And then you always have an extra third receiver with the running back in this area. In this case, instead of lining up the running back over here, he's going to come out and then he's going to do a crossing action. I know it's a lot of lines. So as we let the play run, here's the pick action you get. There's the flanker drive, and the first thing you see is that there's not precision with Bocelli. He's just kind of rounding it by not sticking the route in the manner that I drew, rough drawing, but you're not getting this defender to honor any other route up the field. So you're not getting the separation you would. Now the dig route, man coverage, just, hey, that's a good job of coverage. But here you have the running back. In his man, he's going to run that crossing route. But here's the potential problem. By having him line up here, because you have an option route in the concept up top, if you had an in-breaking route, the defender that's covering the running back, he could be stacked right underneath that crossing route. So if you're going to have the option over here, then you need the running back on the front side, and he could run some type of route to get into that area against man coverage, or he could run a little, West Coast people call that an arrow route, and he would be out of the vision of the quarterback. Or if you want to have the crossing route come from this side, that's fine, that's sound, but then you've got to have outbreaking routes up on the top. And so there's really not a complement with this routes. It didn't play out here. This is excellent execution. It's a good call. There's so much to like here. But if you're talking about a season long and on third downs trying to win, then that's a factor that you need to be aware of, because you don't want to come back on a big third down and be studying the game tape and kind of reverse engineering why a play didn't work, and you say, well, we shouldn't have had the back on that side. I can see this right here, that based on having an in-breaking option route, you shouldn't have the back aligned to that side. That's just a thought on that, but it doesn't negate that it's just really good football in so many areas. And I love the concept of the option in the wake of Ty Jones. I really do. I think that's a great scheme. And Fuller, he runs it perfectly, and Browning makes the perfect throw. And one last thought why I like this play. You see the bunch formation here, and as we said, your motion to the stack. What I like about those formations is when they got dudes and their coach is playing man-to-man because they know their dudes are better than your dudes, one of the great things you can do is get these stack formations. It forces them to have to play at different levels because they don't want to get picked, and you got a lot better chance by scheme to get some guys open in man coverage. And you saw the Huskies make that adjustment in the second half. Just think maybe they made it a tad late when they were down 21-3 at halftime. Okay, real quick, first down. Washington is going to run inside zone with an RPO. And if you watch this safety right here, he's reacting in play action. And when he does that, you've got what's called MOFO, middle of the field open. And Browning's going out. He's getting a completion to Ty Jones. It's nice. But at some point when a safety does that, you got to go take the big play. And the angle, we just talked about sticking crossing routes on shallow crosses. Sticking the intermediate and the deep crossing routes is also important. And in a minute, I'm going to show you Doug Baldwin doing that. But with that middle of the field open, there's got to be an aggression to go try and get a touchdown. Nothing wrong with this. It's great protection. Would have loved to try and see something develop down the field. You're not going to see it much from the end zone jittery camera, but without a safety in there, the middle of the field is a great opportunity to exploit and try and hit the home run ball. Now, the immediate next play, you see Washington playing in fast tempo. The Huskies are going to get into this bunch formation. Now, it's unbalanced. They got a tackle over. The tight end's on the left. And so you've got 2 tackles here. And now you're going to go inside zone, but the read here is the end. When the end collapses on Myles Gaskin, that read is for Browning to keep it in the alley. Now, in addition to the end collapsing, the linebacker is not what's called scrape exchanging into the alley. So both the end and the linebacker are telling him to keep it in the alley. Not short yardage, he gets the first down. In addition to that, there's a smoke concept RPO here where he could throw to Bocelli, but there's only 2 blockers for 3 defenders. So when you see 3 over 3, that's got to be a red light or at the very least a bright yellow light in terms of not throwing the smoke. So he keeps in the alley. The problem with the play and the scheme, in my opinion, is with the ball on the right hash, you allow this guy to simultaneously defend the smoke and deter the smoke, but then when Browning gets the read to keep it in the alley, now he's going to take a kidney shot after a 3-yard gain. And maybe if that's Colson Yankoff, big guy, athletic, make a guy miss and what have you, maybe that's a different story. But for the rest of the quarterbacks on the roster, you don't want them to take that hit. So again, you'll see from the end zone copy, you won't see the safety out there, but very clear. You see Browning's eyes. Browning's eyes are looking at that end. He should be aware of number 32 as well, but he's looking at that end, number 18, and that's his read. Keep it up in the alley, but might be peeing blood next series taking hits like that. So the very next play, first down, Huskies going to get into a 2-by-2 spread with the tight end. Ohio State's playing cover 1, safety in the middle, man-to-man, rushing just 4, a lurk linebacker. Gaskin has his protection here. If he's not blitzing, he has his release. And so then what do you have against man-to-man? All right, Bocelli against jersey number 1. And you see that technique right here. He's on top of him. He's just swallowing up Bocelli. And so Browning is kind of locked in on that matchup. And at this juncture, he just says, well, I'm going to try and throw a back shoulder fade because he's not getting on top of him. And there's really not much there. Just number 1 gets to win again. But let's look pre-snap. Is there something else we like? There's 2 concepts up here, an angle cross and a dig route. Let's look at the angle cross. Now, I had said that we're going to show Doug Baldwin here. I want to see Aaron Fuller. And he runs this cross. He's just going to kind of round it, as opposed to the better technique would be to come up and then threaten. At this juncture, he could go to this angle. You got to threaten something other than just rounding an angle cross. So if he comes at this angle and then just a slight, see that angle, that obtuse angle, remember that term, that stick right there at that angle, sticking that route is a way to get separation. And so let's look at Fuller, how there's just not much happening. Now I understand there's a lurk here who could be in the throwing lane, but this is deep enough that if Browning throws it over here, if he's got separation, then he might have something. But that's just not a win. Let's take a look at Doug Baldwin. Okay, it didn't take long to find Doug Baldwin running a angle cross against man coverage. But what you're going to see from him is he's going to make that angle, and against man coverage, the defender, he's mirroring in man, but he has a reaction time. And so I'm going to exaggerate this here. It takes a while for a defender to react in man coverage. And so this is the technique that gives you the precision. And so you see Baldwin here. See that? See that move right there? that's what we call sticking the route. And watch the effect on the defender. There's a little bit of a reaction, and that creates the separation. The safety misses. There's enough separation, and he's able to house it. Let's look at it from the end zone. So now, again, coming in, we see Baldwin right here. You see how he has that sense to full stride. He doesn't have to chatter his feet and slow down. Just stick that route. Make a slightly obtuse angle, and you see the separation. He's in his hip pocket right now. He makes the move. All of a sudden, there's your separation. So this is something on these crossing routes, whether they're short crossing routes or whether they're intermediate or deep crossing routes. Got to use that technique. So one last time with Fuller. Same concept. Now he's from off coverage, but at this juncture, he has inside leverage, and sticking that route is going to have a similar effect. But you see, it's just kind of a rounded, he just kind of almost runs around the Rose Bowl logo. So enough said on that. Let's go back up to the top here, because I think there's a further problem. You got Ty Jones right here, and he's running a dig route. But watch the corner. The corner is just kind of squatting. At this juncture, he's looking at the receiver, and he just doesn't trust that there's any threat to go deep. So you got to either throw the go route or the stutter a little, start in and then break out, because that is what we call a squatting corner. And you got to double move him, stutter, come in, go up the sideline, and you can get more out of this play. 3rd and 5. Shift 2 tight ends over. Motion down. Fake fly sweep. Little eye candy. And Ohio State is in a man-to-man, but they have 2 safeties. In fact, pretty cool what they do here. The corner is going to start to go in motion. He communicates on the fly with the safety. The safety is going to come down, take the corner's responsibility in man-to-man, and the corner is going to take the safety's half responsibility, half of the field responsibility. That's pretty good communication and a good adjustment by Ohio State. Meanwhile, from Washington's perspective, they've got a good protection here. Ohio State's just rushing 3, again, 2 deep, 5 under man, and Ohio State wants to have these rats and lurks, instead of rushing, just jamming up these crossing routes, which is exactly what the Huskies are trying to do, get the crossing routes. But if you look from a scheme standpoint, beyond the fake fly there, you're trying to get a pick here by Sample and another pick here by Otten, and you're trying to get picks for, you got Gaskin in the flat against a backup linebacker, and then you got Aaron Fuller on a crossing route. So these tight ends are trying to pick for those guys. Now, they don't really get a pick on either one. So let's look here at Gaskin in the flat. That's the man in coverage. So by the formation, you're not able to get any kind of rub or pick on him. But Gaskin runs a good route in his own way. He kind of sticks. He's going at one angle, and then he flattens it. That creates separation. And then as far as Fuller on the crossing route, see, Browning, just give the ball to Gaskin. If you're coaching him, you just say, that's enough. That's a first down right there. You got a good, very clean pocket. Just throw the ball to Gaskin. But he thought he'd come back and get that crossing route. Cannot fault Fuller for going over the top of this. That's a box of coat hangers. And yet when he's doing that, watch jersey number 1 again. He's able to sort through his chatter and then accelerate on the ball and get a pass defense on 3rd down and force Washington to punt. From the end zone, see some of the same stuff. Here's your shift, your tight ends. You'd like them to get a rub in this man coverage. And the eye candy just on that fly sweep, that jet sweep. And then Browning, you can see he turns that down on Gaskin pretty initially, and he thinks he's got something better with Fuller. But number 1's there to make the play. Next series, 1st and 10. Huskies are going to show a spread formation, and then they're going to reduce and shift Got two tight ends. Otten as a fullback, tight end. Now this strong eye formation, that's a heavy formation for running power. That's a strong side play where you're blocking down at the point of attack and pulling the backside guard. And in this case, Browning, you can have this action to try and fake a little boot or waggle action and then a throwback screen. And part of the problem is you're showing power on the front side with the line, but the back is doing counter weak. So strong side power with the line, counter weak with the back, Gaskin. And watch the linebacker. You got man coverage, so the linebacker, he is less likely to be duped by that because you don't have the same conjunction of the line and the running back together. Now, if Hilbers, the tackle, gets this block, maybe it's all for naught. But as we see, this ends up being a near disaster. Let's look at it from the end zone copy. Illegal touching declined. There's your shift. Again, this formation, that's a heavy, strong side power formation with the offset eye and the tight end. You're trying to get extra bodies here. But watch number 20. He's in man coverage on Gaskin. Now, he would also have, in this scheme, he would have the B gap in run support. And when the lineman, the guard here, pulls, then that B gap gets really big. It's the A gap and the B gap. So he's got his eyes on that gap, and he's got the eyes on Gaskin. So once, as we saw from the sideline, Hilbers can't make that block. Well, Browning is in all kinds of troubles for other reasons, and well, let's just say he got really fortunate. That is kind of a wild play in the wrong direction. So at any rate, Huskies fortunate to just live to play another down in that series. Now second down, and the Huskies are going to get an RPO look with Gaskin inside. And once again, you have this spray fade concept where Fuller is outside releasing from his number 2 position. Number 1's outside, number 2 is inside, and what this corner right here, as he widens, he's turning to cut him off. So that's really hard to win when he turns and cuts off. The adjustment would be with him turning his hips that way, as we described. Just start him in, and then against man coverage, you got a completion right there. And so the corners are going to continue, these nickel slot guys are going to continue to win on this route. Now, good for Browning. He gives it a good long look, and now he's finally coming off of it, and he throws the hitch out here to Bichellia, but it's a little late, and now he gets to bobblehead Bichellia right in front of their bench, and he gets smoked, does Bichellia, and Ohio State gets to woof on that one. You see him giving the concept, so he's got to be aware of that. And the hand signal, they can pick up on that. Turn, you can see he goes through his progression. He's looking at that fade at first, doesn't like it. Now he's going to come a little bit late, and Bocelli is going to take a nasty hit, but does a great job of getting back up. Okay, first down, and this play is interesting because the Huskies are going to try and get a little power play here, pulling Jackson Kirkland, and you got down blocks on the left side. So Browning is reading the end. The idea is they're not going to block the end. Gaskin is going to get the ball if he thinks that the end isn't going to get him. But by alignment, Kirkland is going to fit up on this linebacker. Watch 51. His assignment would be to fit on that linebacker. But there's an extra defender in this alley. So Washington's kind of screwed here from a number standpoint to try and run it. And by the way, if he were to give the fake to Gaskin, guess who's running the power play? Jake Browning. behind Jackson Kirkland. So really you don't have the smoke read over at the bottom either, because you got 2 over 2. But watch how Ohio State plays this. Ordinarily, you got a corner. He would be the leverage guy staying outside and keeping his inside shoulder free, and a linebacker would have the gap inside. So the linebacker would be inside of this block, but he feels like he's the only guy in space and that he needs to stay outside leverage, does the linebacker. And that's normally a corner's responsibility. So between the two of them, at this point, they've both taken this widest gap and nobody's on the inside gap. They should have just had one on the inside, and then they've got the Huskies bottled up. But they blow an assignment, and Bocelli has great acceleration and presence to read and make a real positive play for the Huskies. Okay, 1st and 10 at the Ohio State 38. 6 minutes to go in the second quarter. The Huskies are going to get into a trips right formation, and Gaskin is also to the strength of the formation. So this almost creates a 4-by-1. You see how Ohio State lines up to that strength. They're going to play an over front. Defensive line shifted over here. Linebackers shifted all the way over here. Now the Huskies are going to run a weak side counter, what's termed OT counter weak, where you're going to have down blocks from the play side, and then on the backside you're going to bring both Jackson Kirkland and Caleb McGarry on a counter play with Gaskin following from the strong side. Now Hilber's, his responsibility would be to block down, and in this front, because of how Ohio State is aligned, his responsibility would be to come all the way to this linebacker. Now he ends up getting this defensive tackle because he recognizes power and he's trying to slip the center's block, so he naturally just adjusts and helps the center. But that's his responsibility, to give you an idea of how good a position the Huskies are in. Now, Jackson Kirkland, he would take Chase Young, this end, who is coming down, and the term is wrong arming. Kirkland would log him. That's the term, log him. That is perfect by Jackson Kirkland. Now you got Caleb McGarry fitting up on this linebacker. Linebacker reads the OT, but he's no match. McGarry's going to win that combat every time. And Gaskin now is going to have the football up the sideline. Look at Ty Jones. He would be most dangerous between the safety and the corners. The safety is high and inside, so he's just going to shadow box with this corner and stalk him and be in a good position. So this could have been a touchdown for the Huskies. If Gaskin somehow makes this safety miss, you have so much favorable leverage here if the ball goes to Gaskin. But Browning, just for whatever reason, he throws this RPO bubble screen. He doesn't have the numbers. In fact, if anything, you could say there's 4. This end adds a 5th. There's just no numbers. They're sound in terms of how they handle the blocks, unlike a couple plays before. And here you see Browning maybe predetermining. He's giving his hand signal to the concept. Maybe he just says, okay, I want to throw that bubble. But in this over front, there's just such a good opportunity to get that counter. 3rd and 10. Washington in a trips left. Man-to-man look here. Cover 1. Free safety. Everybody man across the board. As far as protection, got a 6-man protection. This linebacker is gonna mug up and then just be a lurk. This linebacker has coverage, so he's not really rushing. So it's just a 4-man rush. Excellent job of picking up this stunt by the Husky offensive line. Good clean pocket, closing in a little from Chase Young, but he's a great player. Great job by Browning, given what he had. Now, we talked about Doug Baldwin and his route technique on these angle crosses. Would love to see Hunter Bryant employing some of that here, because I think right there he's just an easy cover. Jordan Chinn's trying to run away from man coverage. This is outside leverage, and so he's just getting on his horse. Not too bad there, but the in route that Browning's throwing to up top, Aaron Fuller, he's got a corner just sitting on him and squatting. See Browning here, he's going to take his drop, take one hitch, and he's going to put it on the money. But there's just zero separation here. Now, whoever number 8 is playing with a lot of confidence, winning those battles in man-to-man. Okay, minute 16 to go. Second down. Scoreboard's a little late. It's actually 2nd and 5 after a nice completion out in the flat. And Washington's going to run inside zone here to Gaskin, but it's in conjunction with an RPO. Now, Aaron Fuller is going to come up on this overhang defender. And important to note here, there's 2 safeties. This is cover 2 man. So this defender knows he has help over the top. So he can afford to be very aggressive on underneath routes. But watch Fuller's technique. He comes off the line and he's taking little choppy steps and he's not selling anything. His shoulders are coming back now and he almost comes to a complete stop in the defender's lap. Well, at that juncture, now the defender can turn and run with him. If he keeps his momentum going, what I would like to see is keep your momentum going. Don't stop. Keep your shoulder forward lean, bigger strides, and then take it at a slightly flatter angle. There's all kinds of grass in here. There's no defender. What he does is he comes into a stop, and then he takes it skinny, and he allows the defender to make a play on the ball. So just kind of check this out, because this is the precision that is killing the Huskies, is particularly right there at the end of the second quarter. And so ball's behind, but I'm just not a fan of that route. I don't know. It would have taken a dead perfect bullseye out in front to complete this. So Browning pulls the ball. He's got a nice clean passing lane, but the defender's just kind of draped all over him. And I think he would have had to make Fuller dive to get that ball. So now this was a real turning point in the game. So we talked about that option route before where Fuller could either go out or break in. He went out before. Now he's got the in-breaking angle. The running back here, that's Gaskin. He's got protection responsibilities to the right. I like that little delay blitz here. And he makes a good decision on his option route, does Fuller, but the throw just isn't there. I mean, that's just got to be that. This is a 7-point incompletion right there. Now, I tried to look at Fuller. He's got his hip open a little bit, his shoulder open. That shortens his stride. So I would say there's a small percentage, maybe 1% on Fuller, but I think Jake Browning, he knows he's got to hit that. And if you do, you're probably not going to score, but you're going to keep the ball for 3 more downs, burning up enough clock, go into the locker room down 14-3. But as it was, you punt, the defense isn't able to stop. They get a late touchdown, and it's 21-3. And that image right there, with all this area, that had to be one of Jake Browning's most frustrating passes of his career. And you can see I got a lot of empathy. You're like, watch this reaction. He just knows how important that was. Look at him drop there. He just knows how important that play was. So, at any rate, the play that can be a good play in football, but not when it's 21-3 for them. Well, I thank you for sharing some time with me as we look back at the Rose Bowl with an eye towards the 2019 season for the Huskies. And let's end this thing on a positive note, because some of the adjustments we discussed were the idea that you could get up the sideline on some of those stutter moves, up the sideline, and particularly on the far hash where the corners tended to squat a little more. Maybe they didn't respect the deep ball. We talked about getting the wide comebacks, the deep out routes or the speed outs to the widest receivers, where that takes some arm strength, and how run after the catch is an important factor. And when you have the strong arm, you're going to get more run after the catch. So some of the remedies to those issues just might be on this tape right here. And I want you to look. This is 2016. This is a Georgia Bulldogs 24. The guest is Tennessee. There's 19 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter. Jacob Eason has got his team on the Tennessee 47-yard line. There's two safeties back here. Now that's critical. Not one safety in the middle. There's two safeties, one in each half of the field. Now he's going to step up and he's going to straddle right about the 49.5-yard line. And he's going to smoke a hole shot up the sideline for what should have been the game winner. And just a thought here, we can plot the location of this because the hash mark is 20 yards from the sideline. We can measure the vertical, the old a squared plus b squared is c squared, coming from the end zone. And I'll come back to this release here because this is insane here. But watch where he catches it. Okay, from the bottom of the numbers, which is here, to the sideline is 7 yards. So that he just about equidistant. Anyways, we can do the calculations, and that's about a 59-yard hole shot. 59 yards. When I say hole shot, you're beating a half safety, not a single safety in the middle. And I just want you to watch. Now, I played with, some of you may know, I played with John Elway, Troy Aikman, Dan Marino, and watched a lot of pretty badass dudes. But this is in the top 5 throws I've ever seen in my life. This is a 59-yard hole shot. He's holding the ball. Watch, the ball doesn't come down. He doesn't rear back. I mean, it just comes from his ear as if he's throwing a 15-yard hook. He just comes straight out of there. That is a lightning bolt that almost defies description. And the game should have been won right there. So let's see what Jacob Eason does in this offense. I just can't imagine this guy's going to caddy for Jake Hayner or anybody else. But that arm is a way to get some of those squatting corners off. You can do double moves with that arm. So let's see how that works out for the Huskies for the next year or two.